far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Because I'm a country guy, music.
Well, hey, we've got a country guy on the phone right now, Mr. Russ Helton, the leader of the Trailhands band. I've got his son, Dave Helton,
Really?
on the phone right now, all the way from Florida. Dave, have you got us?
Yes, I do.
All right. Dave, how are you today, my friend? I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Chubby Howard and Mr. Randy Dirks Jr. We've got him in here today and here to talk with us.
Hi, Chubby, and how you doing, Randy?
Oh, great.
Golly, this is wonderful, man.
Yeah.
You know, Chubby worked with your dad.
Yes.
He played that bass fiddle and had Bob Shanks and Bob Bean and sometimes Bigfoot Bishop. Gee whiz, I thought the world of your dad. He was good to me. And, of course, he fed me on Saturday when we went to the hayride. He'd pick me up in Franklin. I lived in Franklin. I'd crawl in with him, and he'd have to get, and this is true now, he'd have to get a big bag of those, what was it?
The White Castle
The
hamburgers.
White Castle.
Yeah.
He loved them.
Yeah.
And we would get a whole sack full. They was cheap then. Of course, everything was cheap. I mean, your money and stuff, but they were 12 or 13, no more than 15% of each.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, Dave lives down in Florida now, and I got to meet him. I think we met about 2 years ago, and when I went to Florida here last couple of weeks ago, I got to see him again, and we got to talking. And Dave, tell me a little bit about where the Trailhands first met and the name. What really the Trailhands at the start, was it?
But no, they were the Moon Misters on Channel 13, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right.
And then their name changed to the Trailhands later
Mm-hmm.
when they went to WLWD, I believe. Their first music together, they played around Dayton, but the first one I remember them talking about was Mike's Cafe over by the old Chrysler plant
Mm-hmm.
across the street on Leo Street, I think.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And that's the first I remember of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, they played over at Lakewood Beach Park in Urbana quite a bit, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. On Sunday afternoons, they played, I think, for 2 or 3 years there.
Wow.
That was, and I would go up there with them. I sold popcorn in the crowd. And made a couple dollars on Sunday afternoon. So.
Wow. Lots of good things here on the Chubby Howard Show today of Real Roots Radio. We're going back to the days in the Midwestern Hayride, connecting some folks that haven't talked to each other or seen one another in probably close to about 60 or 70 years. And it's amazing how we can be able to connect everybody here today with today's technology. Now, Dave, I know Randy remembers a little bit. I know you do too. The Ed Sullivan Show. The guys played the Ed Sullivan Show at one time, didn't they?
Yes, they did. In fact, they played the Ed Sullivan Show, and I think Ed Sullivan even stopped by the station because they were part of the network, and he was doing a tour of the network show, the TV shows across the country.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember that. They played at Hobart Arena. They opened the show for Roy Rogers.
Wow.
I remember that. I still have a photographed picture that Roy gave me, and my dad took me backstage, and I got him to autograph a picture for me. So that was kind of interesting, but it was a fun life growing up with that piece of history.
Oh, absolutely. Now, your dad, Russ, he was originally, the whole family was from down in Corbin, Kentucky, correct?
Correct. Right. My dad was born in Corbin, and they moved to Dayton when the war broke out. Dayton sent people down to recruit people to come back to Dayton to work in the factories to help the war effort.
Wow.
And he came up and worked at Delco Products. He still had that love of music. And
Mm-hmm.
when he wasn't working at Delco, he was playing music around town.
Wow. Wow. Lots of great history. Now, on his bass, he had a great big upright bass, and it kind of stood out a little bit different than some of the other basses that were around. He had kind of a white trim around that, didn't he?
Yep. He took white medical tape and taped around it. He transported that bass in his car. He would open the front door and slide it in over the front seat and rest it on the back seat. And to keep it from getting banged up on the edges, he put that tape on.
No, they did play. I'll ask Grandpa Randy here, Randy Jr. They all went down to Nashville, Tennessee at one time. They did make an appearance on the Grand Ole Opry back when it was at the Ryman. And you remember going down there as a kid.
I remember a little bit, but not a whole lot. And I got to say, Dave, you remember a lot more than I do.
Yeah. I remember going backstage there at the Ryman, but all I remember was the band playing. I don't remember meeting anyone.
Well, you two gentlemen were fairly young in those days, probably about around 10 or 11 years old at that time.
Yep, that's right.
But for being so long ago, I got to say that both of you both remember quite a bit, and it's great to hear these old stories here on Real Roots Radio today.
I remember your dad, when I worked with him, I believe that he worked for a Pontiac dealership. Did he or not?
Yes, he did.
Yes.
Actually.
And they'd always say, when they'd talk to that about, said when a customer would come in, he could get them quicker than anybody or something, and he was a good salesman for that organization, the Pontiac dealership, and I thought a lot of your dad, and we got along real good, and I enjoyed working with the Trailhands at WLW, and gosh, I was young. That must have been 50. Probably the 40s, the late 40s.
Late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah,
many years ago.
Early 50s, yeah.
And they would leave their place up here in Dayton, and I lived in Franklin on River Street, and they'd stop and pick me up, me and my guitar.
The whole bunch of you go down there.
And we would ride together.
Now, Dave, I found something new. I don't know if you've had a chance to check your Facebook. See, Dave, for those listeners out there, Dave and we met actually on the computer about 3 years ago, and his son is actually the one that found me, and we were both looking for information about the Trailhands, and of course Chubby Howard and the Midwestern Hayride and things. So we found each other on a forum called Dayton History Books Forum, and we've been great friends ever since. Now I've got a little new discovery here, Dave. RCA Victor. On the X label, along with Voca Music Group Incorporated, they were taking the WLW talent, all the folks, the real good performers on that show, and they were having them cut some 45s. And I found here in an October 1954 issue of Billboard magazine that they had country and Western talent, Red and Zeke Turner, the Kentucky Boys, the Gear Sisters, Mary Jane Johnson, Kenny Price, Phyllis and Billy Holmes, Paul Arnold, Rock and Rudy Hanson, Buddy Ross, the Pine Mountain Boys, and the Trailhands all signed to record on RCA X label records. Now, these records, I'm told, they're pretty rare and they're pretty hard to find. So now me, you, and your son, we've got some new stuff to search for.
Yep, I thought I just wrote that down so I can search for it, too. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good, Dave. Dave, I sure appreciate your time in here in the studios of Real Roots Radio today, and hope you're having a good day down there in Florida. And I want to thank you again for coming on the air and being able to visit with all of us here today. And we're looking forward to seeing you again next time down there in Florida.
Okay. We're looking forward to seeing you, too.
All right, Dave. Best wishes to you and Carrie. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Mr. Dave Helton here, son of Russ Helton on Real Roots Radio. We're going to have to take just a quick break here, but we're going to hear one here, Randy Dirks and the Hayriders House Band on the Midwestern Hayride, little instrumental right here, taking us into the bottom of our break.
There's nothing like the real thing.
Genuine, made in the USA. Ain't nothing like the real thing.
Real Roots Radio.